everyone, this is Michelle from Tula. Welcome back. So today is foundation class number 3, and before we dive in, I did get a few private messages asking a little more explanation about the breath. So before I just dive into the breath control or awareness, I want to talk about the 8 limbs of yoga. So in yoga, we use different ways to balance our body, but also to balance the mind. So I'll just list them really quick. So we have our social ethics, how do we treat others? Our internal ethics, how do we treat ourselves? We have breath awareness or breath control, called pranayama. We have our poses, asana. We have concentration, so dharana, I believe is how it's pronounced. We have control of our senses, like sight, smell, hearing. We have meditation, and then we have what's called samadhi or enlightenment. So we use these in our practice. Sometimes we don't use them all at one time. Sometimes we're using many in with each other. And so when we're doing our yoga poses, we use the breath awareness, the pranayama, and that is to focus our mind. And it's also to help us in our poses so that we are not rushing through the poses. We are safely entering, transitioning into each pose, knowing how long we're in the pose. Okay, so I, on the first class, talked about Ujjayi breath and the mechanics of it. And we're going to take the mechanics of that and kind of go one step more into this. So go ahead and get comfortable. And I want you to start to practice your Ujjayi breath, just inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And as you inhale, I want you to take your awareness into the breath. So this is that concentration piece, right? So this is another limb of yoga. We are focusing our mind. We are becoming present. We are staying here and now, not in the past, not going into the future. All right. Now feel the breath in the back of the throat or the roof of the mouth. Notice as you inhale, the breath go through the back of the throat, down into your lungs. Notice how your lungs expand and the diaphragm moves downward to make room for the lungs to expand. Now as you exhale, feel the breath coming back out. And notice the warmth of the breath. Feel the breath, right? The lungs are coming back in. We can feel the warmth. Now, take it one step further. See if you can slow down your inhale and exhale so that your inhale is smooth and controlled, and your exhale is slow and soft. Okay, so inhaling and exhaling nice and slow. Okay, now we're going to add one more thing onto that. When you inhale, imagine you're sucking on a straw, right? The mouth is closed, but you can hear your inhale in your inner ear. Okay, so it's, and I don't know if the microphone on the camera will pick that up. And as you exhale, imagine you're fogging a mirror, right? You're going, but your mouth is closed. And you should be able to hear that in your inner ear. And it's not for, if you were in a yoga class, it's not for your neighbor to hear. It's just for your own concentration and focus. So inhaling through the nose, you're sucking on a straw, right? Exhaling, fogging up a mirror. Practice this a few times. And then make sure that your breath is slow and controlled. Hi, Teresa. Okay, so that is the breathing piece. I had a couple people private message me about that. Why we do it is one, for concentration while we're in our yoga practice so that we're not thinking about other things. And two is so that we are not rushing through our poses. And I'm not just talking actually in the pose, I'm also talking like the transition, right? Because transitions are as important, if not more, than the pose. This is where a lot of people can injure themselves if they are going in and out too fast. All right, so with that, we're gonna get started. Go ahead and find a seat if you're sitting on the floor or a chair. And we're gonna just come into easy pose. Just means that you're sitting maybe cross-legged, or if that bothers your legs or back, you can sit a different way. Maybe legs are in front of you, okay? So we'll get started. Okay. Alright, so just sit up nice and tall through the spine, bringing your shoulders more over the hips. The belly is engaged, right? So we're supporting that low back here. And gently close your eyes and focus into your breath. So we're practicing that breath awareness, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose. Feel the breath and start to control the length of the inhale and the exhale. Three more rounds of your breath, 3 more inhales and exhales. Very nice. Let's loosen up the back of the neck, take the chin towards the heart. The back of the neck get nice and long. Remember, we can stay here or gently rock the top of the head towards the right and the left. So listen to your body. Very nice. Let's take our head back to center, bring the head back over the spine. Okay. So we're going to take our left hand to the floor or your prop and bring your right hand to the shoulder. Bend your left elbow in towards your waist. Inhaling, reach the right elbow towards the ceiling. Hang out here or extend your right hand. The palm faces down. The right shoulder is soft. We're not pulling that shoulder up to the ear. Good. Reach the right hip towards the floor. Very nice. Push out of your left hand to come all the way back. Set the right hand to your block, prop, or floor. Take the left hand to your shoulder. Bend the right elbow in towards the waist. The right hand takes your weight. Left elbow reaches towards the ceiling. Hang out here or extend that top hand. Push out of the bottom hand and come all the way back. Bring the hands back behind you like you're holding a big beach ball. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, and at the same time, practice your belly binding, drawing the belly button towards the spine. Inhale, draw hands up overhead, upward hand salute. Exhale, hands to your heart. Okay, we're going to go into a seated twist. In a seated twist, we want to keep the low back quiet. So we're not twisting in our low back. We're twisting from the thoracic spine, So the middle spine, the spine that is attached to your ribs. Okay? So as you exhale with hands to your heart, gently twist towards the right. Okay? And then set your hands to the floor or your props, and then reach the chin towards the right shoulder. Now the hands to the floor or your props are there just to stabilize the spine to get nice and long. It's not for leveraging your spine. So our low back only has 7% rotation. You can force more rotation with the hands to the floor, but please don't. It's not worth it. Okay? Inhale, hands back overhead, come back to center. Exhale, hands to your heart. Very nice. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, twist to the left. Good. Again, set the hands to stabilize your spine. So we're not leveraging in our low back. Belly button draws in to support that low back in this twist. Instead of moving our chin to the left shoulder, this is a different sensation. Bring your chin to the right shoulder. Right? So it gives you a different way of doing this pose, and you can do whatever feels best for you. If it felt better to take the chin to the back shoulder, do that. If it feels better to bring it to the front shoulder, hold it there. Now, if you want a little more here, drop the chin down towards the shoulder. So you're getting a long stretch through the back side of that neck, through the left side. Very nice. If your chin is down, bring it up. We'll inhale everything back to center, and exhale, hands to your heart. Very nice. Okay, we're going to come into tabletop. So hands and knees to the floor. Remember, you can use a blanket under the knees or a blanket underneath your hands if you need that. Okay, so hips are above the knees, shoulders are slightly behind your wrists. Okay, now press into the tops of the feet till you feel those inner thighs engage and lengthen your spine. So we're doing axial extension in our spine. All right, now focus into the breath. This is where you're going to practice your Ujjayi breath with your pose transitioning. As you inhale, it's a nice slow inhale. One vertebra at a time we move, starting with our tailbone. And then we work up into our cow pose, one vertebra at a time as we're inhaling. As we exhale the breath, again, start with your tailbone. Work into cat pose, one vertebra at a time. Now take this at your own pace. Inhaling into your cow. Exhaling into cat. Keep going while I talk here. So a lot of people do yoga. It's wonderful. If you do your yoga poses fast, the transitions fast, you're not going to get as much out of it, right? So it's actually harder to do yoga slower. It takes a lot more focus, a lot more concentration, a lot more interoception, so asking of your body, and it does what you're asking. A lot more proprioception, figuring out where you are in relation to space. I'm walking closer because I can't see my... Hi, Brian, thank you. God bless. So our going fast in yoga poses is not as beneficial as slowing it down, okay? When you're moving in your cat and cow right now, close your eyes. And I want you to think about your spine, and just in your mind, can you visualize your spine and move one vertebra at a time, right? So always starting with our tailbone, working through the spine. When you move into your cow, starting at the tailbone. When you move into your cat, starting at the tailbone. And just notice how that feels different than where I'm going to take you, which is come back into your tabletop. And now I want you to bring your awareness to your belly button. And as you move into cow, I want you to imagine that the belly button is dropping towards the floor, right? And then as you move into cat, I want you to pull the belly button up towards the ceiling. And just notice how this feels a little different than when you're actually working one vertebra at a time. One, it's much easier. Two, there's not as much muscle focus or concentration that has to happen. It's really relatively easy. So play with that in your cat and cow. Notice how different it feels, and where is your mind when you are doing your cat and cow one way compared to the other. Okay? All right. So from cat and cow, let's go ahead and come into our child pose. Remember, child pose can be with your knees apart or your knees together, depending on what your body prefers, right? My body likes to have the knees apart. Your big toes always touch. If this feels like too much in your knees, it's too much flexion, slide a blanket underneath or behind your knees so that you're limiting the amount of flexion in the knees. If it bothers the knees themselves, you take your blanket and put it underneath your knees. If you need both of these reasons, slide a pillow between your legs so it gives you something to sit on. Okay? And then we're going to rest our forehead to maybe the floor or a prop. If you don't have something, just take and stack your hands and you're making something for the forehead to rest on. Okay. So hold here. You can reach those hands forward if you have your forehead on something other than the hands. You can take your arms and just bring them in towards you, palms facing up. You can even bring those arms to your side and let your head rest sideways. So many different ways to do our child pose. Listen to your body, do the one that feels best. We're going to hold here for 3 more inhales and exhales. Slow and controlled. Very nice. When you're finished with that, come back to your hands and knees into your tabletop. All right. Go ahead and walk the knees back, coming into your kneeling plank. Remember, in our kneeling plank, we don't want to bail in that low back, so we want our low back supported by the belly. And also, what's happening in my hands is my hands are pushing down and forward to help the belly muscles, right? So my hands are pushing down and forward. They don't actually move anywhere. And my feet are flat to the floor. Very good. Now shift your hips back over the knees, curl your toes underneath you, and then lift into the first downward dog. And I'm going to walk forward here a little bit because I'm pretty sure I'm out of frame. All right. So in your downward dog, bend the knees, reaching the low belly towards the upper thighs. They won't be touching, but they're just trying to find each other. And then push away from the top of the mat, down and forward. Good. Now pedal your feet here, just bending one knee at a time and straightening the other leg. So we're just getting some synovial fluid moving into our hip joints. Good, nice. Now gently set your knees to the floor. Sit back so that you can see the screen. So, all right, when we are in our downward dog, hi Rick, when our hands are to the floor, we want the back of our arms, instead of going out to the sides, to roll towards the floor, okay? So instead of here, it's here. It's kind of like yesterday when I was talking about taking your hands up overhead, or maybe it was the first day. Instead of just hands up overhead, it is that rolling of the arm so that the back of the arm rolls forward, okay? And this is going to help you when you're in downward dog, so you're not doing this, right? So the shoulders are not there. I'm going to turn around so hopefully you can see. So instead of this, okay, we can find space here. Okay? So anytime the hands come up overhead, we want to think about the elbows tracking inward in line with the shoulders, right? Like this. Downward dog, your hands are overhead. You're just in an inversion. Okay? So I'm going to see if I can do this on video. Hopefully it'll turn out okay. I'm going to show the way that I was talking about not to do it, and then how to find that space and get your shoulder girdle muscles more involved in holding you in downward dog. So here I am in my downward dog. You can hopefully you can see that my elbows are pointing more outward. I have a lot of weight into my hands and my shoulders. Now I'm going to bend my elbows slightly and roll the back of the arms towards the floor. And then push away from the top of the mat. And hopefully you can see the amount of space that was created in doing that. So instead of here, I'm here. All of this is working to support me instead of just my shoulders. Okay? So go ahead and come back into your downward dog. Try it one more time. See if that makes sense. By the way, if you have questions during when I'm teaching here, please post them, because I would like to answer them live if I can. And sorry, I'm reading some of the comments. All right, so from the downward dog, take your time walking slowly forward into forward fold, okay? Remember in forward fold when I first taught this on Monday, I talk about bringing your low belly and your upper thighs together and avoiding that rounding in your middle or low back, okay? Now, find your hip joint. So where does your thigh bone align into the pelvis? And then find your outside the malleolus of your ankle, so that bone right here that sticks out. And let the hip bone and that ankle bone come more in alignment with one another. Okay, and to do that, you're going to feel more weight into the front of the foot than in the heel. The heel still touches. Good. So what we're doing here is we are relaxing the back of the legs, encouraging a pelvis tilt forward, an anterior tilt, so that your spine, instead of here, right, my pelvis is more fixed, and my spine is rounding forward. Instead of that, I'm tilting the pelvis, and my spine gets to come along, right? All right. On your next breath, on the inhale, come into flat back. And then exhale, fold. Remember reverse swan dive, so we're going to take a little deeper bend to the knees, your arms stretch out to the sides, push the feet away from center as you come up, and exhale, hands to your heart. Very nice. Okay. So, we're going to go through Sun Salute A. In Sun Salute A, I'm going to slow it down so that you can practice your breath, right? So practicing that slow transitioning in through each pose and out of each pose. When we are doing this Sun Salute, this is a warm-up. There's Sun Salute A, there's Sun Salute B, there's a lot of Sun Salutes that people have created. when we're doing this, if you're like, yeah, I can't do that pose, I need an alternative, let me know. I'd be happy to give you an alternative to that, okay? So come to the top of the mat in mountain posture, okay? Find the bindings in your body. So remember creating that dynamic tension. I'll review that really quickly. So lift your inner and outer arches of your feet. And if you're like, I don't know how to do that, firm your lower legs. That'll probably do the trick. Good. Now lift your pelvis floor. Imagine you're stopping the flow of urine. That'll do some of the pelvis floor. And then imagine you're actually lifting that area up into the body. All right. Now, think about the belly, and more than just your belly button pulling towards the spine, imagine that the left and right side of your body are drawing towards one another. Dial it down if you start to feel this in your low back. Very good. So that's your belly binding. Take your head directly over the spine where you feel that the throat is relaxed and the back of your neck is relaxed. We reach the fingers towards the floor, and I want you to contract the muscles in your lower arms. You'll start to feel the hands tighten as well. That's great. Now, relax the knees a little bit, just a micro relax, and then soften the shoulder blades down your spine. Start to focus into your breath. Inhale, exhale through the nose. Feel the breath in the back of your throat or the roof of your mouth. As we take our next breath, let's take hands up overhead. As we exhale the breath, hinge forward in the hips coming into your forward fold. On the inhale, rise into flat back. Pull the shoulders away from the ears. On the exhale, come back into your forward fold. We're going to step the right side back for the beginning of Warrior One. So your right heel is to the floor. Remember yesterday when we talked about Warrior One, the rear hip transfers forward in a line with the left hip. So they're in the same plane. Right hip pulls forward, left hip draws back. Hands can come up overhead if you like. Exhale, hands back to your props or the floor. And we're going to take this left foot and sweep it back into downward dog. On your inhale, shift into your kneeling plank. Good. Remember yesterday we worked a little bit on chaturanga. So here's my kneeling plank, right? I'm going to curl the toes, skip my knees forward, and then bend the elbows coming into your chaturanga. So elbows are hugging in tight. Flatten the feet to the floor. So tops of the feet are to the floor. Lift your heart into cobra. Good. Push down into your hands, down and forward to bring the hips back over the knees. Curl the toes and come back into downward dog. Good. Take a slow walk forward to the top of the mat, coming into forward fold. Inhale into flat back. Exhale, fold. Good. Step the left side back for the beginning of your Warrior One. Okay, on the inhale, reach up, left hip drawing forward, right hip drawing back, front knee is in line with your second and third toe. Exhale, hands back to your props or the floor. Sweep into downward dog. Inhale into your kneeling plank. Toes are curled here. Skip the knees forward a few inches. Bend the elbows 1 inch and hug those elbows in towards your body. Flatten the feet. The belly is very much engaged as we lift the heart into cobra. Push your hands down and forward as you exhale the breath. Shift the hips over the knees. Curl the toes here and then shift back into your downward dog. In your own time, take a slow walk forward to the top of your mat, coming into forward fold. Inhale into flat back, pull the shoulders away from the ears, and exhale, fold. Very nice. Deep bend to the knees, reverse the swan dive. Hands to your heart center as you release your breath. Very good. Okay. Let's come into chair pose. So this is the next pose I'm teaching today. So bend the knees. And chair can be done forward or a twisting chair. So we're going to do forward chair right now. So with my knees bent, my knees are in line with the hip points. Remember yesterday and day before I talked about my reference of hip points. Where does the thigh bone attach into your pelvis? There's two little bony marks here that you can find. You want your knees in line with those and your feet in line with your knees. All right, so when we come into chair, we want to make sure that we're not in a back bend, right? So my rib cage is not flaring forward. I'm right here. Okay? In your chair pose, let's take hands to heart center first. Okay? Traditionally, it's done here. Just for now, let's keep hands to heart center. In your chair pose, do you feel the front thigh muscles working? Probably, right? Now, if we were to hold here for a really long time, your legs are going to fatigue out and you're probably going to have to straighten your legs. But instead of just these thigh muscles working, what if we ask more here, okay? So as you're holding here, imagine you're pushing your feet away from center. You're going to start to feel your glutes working a little more, right? You're going to start to feel the sides of your legs working a little more. Takes these muscles and it says, we're going to help you, okay? Straighten the legs. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so instead of just chair, right, I want you to be pushing your feet away from center energetically, okay? And as we hold, now, when you push your feet away from center, take a moment to look at your knees. Make sure they're not pulling out, right? Because then we're changing our alignments here. And alignment is where we focus or we function at our best. Hi, Val. Hi, Ryan. Okay, so when you come up, push further away from center, like a little more force, and just notice how it feels different when you come up. Now when you come back, down into chair, push away from center. Okay, let's do that a few times. And you're pushing away. Okay? All right. So, if you're feeling that in your knees at all, dial it down. You're going to hear me say that a lot. Dial it down. If you feel it somewhere and it's unpleasant, if it's uncomfortable, if it hurts, definitely dial it down. Each one of us, our bodies are different. And each day that we come into practice, or each day that we're practicing, our body is different. One thing that I tell my students all the time is check in with your body right now and see where you are and practice with the body you walked in through the doors with. Not the body that you walked in with yesterday or last month or last year. Because, right, we practice in the present moment. Okay, so come back into your chair. Push your feet away from center. Reach the hands forward. Very nice. Watch that the rib cage is not flaring forward. That's putting you in a back bend. Good. Now straighten the legs. Reach your hands up overhead. And as you bow forward into forward fold, push the feet away from center. Good. Hold here in forward fold for a moment. Good. In chair pose, we are in neutral spine. So, when I come to the side, Brittany. So in chair, right? We're not letting the rib cage flare forward. We're pulling it back. Yeah? Does that make sense? Now, I'm talking for beginners. So as you become more accustomed to chair pose, as you start to understand it, because remember, I'm just teaching at a very basic level. I want to make sure that we're not overdoing it in someone's bodies that they're just not ready for that yet. So you might come into a yoga class and the yoga instructor will have you into a back bend, right? Nothing wrong with that. But this is a beginner series. So right now, neutral spine. Someday, maybe more. All right, go ahead and come up. I bet your legs are tired. So when you went into your forward fold and you pushed the feet away from center, hopefully your low back was just along for the ride. It should be the same feeling as when you come up. So when we do our reverse swan dive, okay, we are going to bend the knees, push the feet away from center. I'm dropping my hips to change gravity, right? So that my low back is not the leverage. I'm not leveraging in my low back. I'm dropping the pelvis down, and so that the angle that the pelvis is sitting at is different, working with gravity. And then I push the feet away from center as I come up. Just like when I'm forward fold, I push the feet away from center. Push the feet away from center. Okay? So that's especially important to those that have low back issues, right? So as we're moving in and out of poses, make sure that you're pushing the feet away from center. That's what I really love about chair pose. It's a great place to practice this. Now, twisted chair. Let's bring our feet and our legs together. Okay, hands to your heart. Squeeze your inner thighs together this time. So now instead of pushing out, we're squeezing in. Okay, as you exhale your breath, gently twist to the right. Good, wonderful. Now, peek at your knees. Did your left knee come forward? If it did, you're moving the pelvis instead of your spine. Bring the knee back. Hands back to the heart. Keep your knees from jutting out over one another. Working through our thoracic spine only, our spine where our ribs are. Belly is engaged. Exhale, twist towards the right. Very good. Now, twisted chair has a lot of different levels. For beginners, I prefer here. As you get more advanced, you can sit back deeper. I'm going to turn to the side. As you get more advanced, you can sit back deeper. Maybe take the elbow between the knees or to the outside of the knee for more advanced classes. The main thing that you want to think about when you're in your twisted chair is, am I twisting through my pelvis or am I twisting through my thoracic spine? Okay? Someone that is new, if they're twisting here, that's all. It's not going to hurt them. It just means it's not going to really benefit them. So, all right, let's come back up. Hands to the heart. Sit down into your chair, and as you exhale the breath, twist to your left. Okay? Remember, find the level of difficulty that feels like it's a challenge to you. So we embrace a little bit of being uncomfortable, but we do not want to be moving into pain. Okay? All right. So, I know I was going to say something about twisted chair, and now I forgot it. So just like when we're moving in and out of our poses, and I was talking about Ujjayi breath, and how important that is to slow down your breath, to slow down the transitions, because one, it's more difficult, two, it's safer, the concentration level ramps up. I mean, I could go on and on and on why going slower is better than going fast in yoga. On our exhales, is it easier? So think of your lungs as balloons, right? And if you inhale your breath and you're twisting against two balloons that are filled up with air. Where if you twist on the exhale, you'll find you have less resistance, okay? All right, so that's why we twist on the exhale. Okay, let me walk back here so I can see my notes. Okay, so let's go into let's review our warrior poses. So go ahead and stand if you haven't already stood up. Come to the top of the mat, take your hands to the waist. So the reason I have you take your hands to the waist is so that you know where you are in relation to space. This is that proprioception part of yoga, right? So we're going to step the left side back into warrior one. Okay? By the way, if you have low back issues, maybe that step is not a big step. Maybe it's a more shallow step. Okay? If you're pregnant, it should be a shallow step as well. So front knee is in line with our second and third toe. Did you see me do this? There's a reason why. Yeah. Doug Keller showed us this. Instead of pulling your knee just to center, which engages the back of your leg, if you actually lift the heel, realign the thigh bone, set the heel down, and then stretch out the front of the foot, you have your alignment without over-engaging the back of your leg. Just a little side note there. Okay, hands rise overhead if you like. And remember, there is a little thing, I don't know if you saw me do it. So when we step back in warrior one, the leg that you step back with, that hip is going to be sitting behind the other hip. See, now this is where I am in relation to space. So I took a little bow, I readjusted, I pushed into the heel, and then drew my shoulders more over the hips. At the same time, I'm really practicing my belly binding, right? So the transverse abdominis muscle is working at a much more significant level than if I'm just, let me see if I can do it again. Okay, if I'm just here and I pull, I don't have to engage my belly as much, and you won't feel the back leg working as hard, okay? All right, so from your warrior one, let's move into warrior two. So we're going to take our left hand and our left foot, step it deeper into the mat. Very good. Check in with your front knee. Realign your front knee in line with second and third toe. Find where is your alignment of your pelvis. So my pelvis is at this angle when my knee is in line with my second and third toe. My back knee and toes need to follow that angle, because if my toes go to the long edge of the mat, this is old teaching going towards the edge of the mat, the joint in between is your knee. Your knee is now rotated, bearing some weight, and it's very unhealthy for the inside ligament of the knee. All right, firm the inner thighs, drop the rear hip down. Okay, so I'm going to come forward so you can see that. So here I was. If I just extend my arms here, it's like I'm surfing forward. Can you see that? My shoulders to my hips. My front leg's doing all the work. Okay, so instead I'm going to squeeze the muscles in my inner thighs and drop the rear hip down. Now I can feel my shoulders coming more over my hips. The back leg has to engage much more. And then extend the arms away. Very good. Draw the head over your spine and slowly bring the vision forward. Now, since your rear hip is down, when you reverse the warrior, the bottom rib on the back side and the top of your pelvis will not meet each other so quickly. So you'll find more of lateral flexion in the spine. More bending in the spine. How's that? Good. Exhale back into your warrior two. Very nice. Inhale, straighten the front leg, and then we're going to the opposite side. So go ahead and step to the front of your mat. Sorry, I'm used to having I have a really big mat here, so I'm used to working with a big mat. Okay. Step the right side back into your warrior one. Front knees in line with our second and third toe. Getting the right leg to really engage, hands rise overhead. Shoulders are soft away from the ears. You have two, hopefully. Okay, here we go. Right hand, right foot, sweep back. Firm your inner thighs, drop the rear hip down. Inhale, reverse the warrior. Very nice. Exhale back into warrior two. Straighten your lead leg. Take those toes, bring them towards the long edge of your mat. Look at your back toes, also bring that to point towards the long edge of your mat. Feet are running parallel to one another, okay? We're moving into a new pose called Prasharita, or extended standing forward fold, okay? not leave you. Our cervical spine, our neck, and our low back, the lumbar, are closely related. What we do in one affects the other. So if you are leading with your chin, you will feel that in your low back. So practice your Jalandhara, your head is over your spine. And then we're going to push away from center. There's a bend to the knees, and we bow forward. Okay, so this is Prasarita A. Yes, your butt's going to come back behind your heels because you have to counterweight or you'll fall forward, right? Then if you can come into Parasharita A, maybe with your hands to the floor or to a prop. And I'm going to scoot back a little bit so I'm not out of frame. Right? And then bring your hips, hip bone in line with your ankle bone. By the way, make sure that you're not pushing out or hanging into the outside of that ankle joint. So I'm going to turn back forward. Okay? So this is what I'm talking about hanging into the ankle joint. Sorry, I'm trying to see my screen to see if it's showing. Okay, so instead of rolling to the outside, I engage the inside of my ankle. So I'm balancing the ankle joint. I don't know if you were able to see that. Okay. So Prasarita, wide angled forward fold. Standing wide angled forward fold. This is A. If you need a little more, right, A can also be to the floor. You can bring your forearms to the floor. This is B. Prasarita B. Okay. And Prasarita C is more for advanced, so I'm not going to be teaching that here. Yeah, so that's what that is. Any questions on that? Prasarita A or B? Okay. So there was reverse warrior, warrior 1, warrior 2. Extended angle. So go ahead and come into your warrior 2 with the left side stepping back. Okay. Now, with my left side stepping back, it's pretty much the same alignments, right? Except for this. I'm not going to firm my hip down because this is where I'm going. Okay? So, I'm going to let that hip move. I'm going to bring my front forearm to the front thigh. I'm working the through my right leg right now. So the right butt cheek drawing underneath me. Does that make sense? So instead of, hopefully this shows, instead of this, like it's just hanging and I'm kind of coming forward, I pull it underneath me. Here, I'm going forward. Here, I pull it underneath me. I'm drawing my left shoulder blade towards the right, but keeping the left shoulder stacked on top of the right. Okay, so this is beginner, right? We can have the arm up overhead or over the shoulder, excuse me. And for a little more advanced, we can extend the bottom arm to the inside of the leg. This leg is pushing into my arm, and the arm pushes back, and I'm lengthening my spine. Now, anytime that the hand comes up over the shoulder, one of my things that I see a lot in beginners is they'll do, let me see if I can do it. I don't know if it'll show in my shirt, but it's like the shoulder head is pushing forward. The reason the shoulder head is pushing forward is because they're getting soft tissue compression. And so the body is moving that way so they don't have pain. Okay, so they're still having a little pain or discomfort, but that's the nervous system just trying to mimic the shape. So to avoid that, we need to move the shoulder blade out of the way so that when the arm bone comes up, you're not pinching soft tissue. So we take the top hand, bring it below your shoulder. Okay? This is the only time I'm going to say lock the elbow, but you're locking the elbow. And then you squeeze the top shoulder blade towards the bottom shoulder blade. So I'm squeezing my right shoulder blade towards the left. And then I bring the hand up over the shoulder. If that's a little too difficult, another way you can do it is reach your hand back. My thumb is pointing up. Squeeze the right shoulder blade towards the left, but make sure you're not going like this, right? So it's just the intention, and then lift up. So both will work, hopefully, for your body. If not, let me know and I'll try to somehow work with you to this way to see if I can find a different way to get that to work for you. All right, so that's extended angle. Extended angle and triangle are very similar. So the only thing different is that I'm straightening my lead leg. Now, there's one other thing that in extended angle. In extended angle, if you start to feel low back pain in your SI joint, if you're like, I don't know where my SI joint, I'm going to turn away from the camera so I can kind of show you. So if you're feeling pain in here, let your top hip slightly roll towards the ground. Okay, that's going to take the pressure off the SI joint. So from here, might be too much, bring it here. All right, go ahead and come to the top of your mat. We're going to step the right side back into your warrior two. All right, so we went into our extended angle from our warrior two. We can also from warrior two move into triangle. So extend your arms away like you're in your warrior two. Don't let your back hip drop down. We don't want it to drop down. Inhale, straighten your lead leg. Don't lock that kneecap out. And then reach forward like you're trying to touch the front of the room that you're in. Very good. And then cartwheel your arms. Don't worry, I'm going to come the other way so you can see from the front. Okay. This is Trikonasana or triangle pose. In triangle pose, I'm going to turn to the side so you can see me again. Here's my warrior two. Inhale, lengthen the lead leg. Reaching forward. I'm keeping the underside of my body nice and long and shifting the pelvis back. Okay? So we want to make sure the pelvis is shifting back and the spine is coming with you. If my pelvis stays fixed, then this is what my triangle is going to look like. Okay? Now, if I keep my spine here and I turn to the side, I'm in lateral flexion of my spine. I'm side bending in my spine instead of a neutral spine, right? So here I'm in warrior two. Lengthen the lead leg. Shift the pelvis back, reach forward. Then cartwheel your arms. So the spine is nice and long, right? There's not that rounding. Okay, go ahead and try it on the other side. Just shift your feet. Come into warrior two. Inhale, lengthen the lead leg. Reach forward. Exhale, Trikonasana. So, just like extended angle, if you feel this in your low back, let your top hip slightly roll towards the floor. Good. On the inhale, we use this top hand to lift us up and back out of the pose. And exhale into warrior two. Okay, so that's extended angle and triangle. All right, so before we go into chaturanga, because I said today we would be revisiting chaturanga and go a little bit more into that, I want to talk about hip girdle strength and hanging into our hip joint, which is actually true for any joint, actually. So I'm sure a lot of people have seen tree pose, right? So balancing on one leg, and we'll be going over this pose tomorrow. But in tree pose, or any standing pose, we have a tendency to do this, where we're just hanging into the joint. So my thigh bone is now going at an angle, right? Because my pelvis is tilted, and everything's hanging on for dear life. And then I say, hey, can you bear all of my weight too? So this joint's going to get very angry. So instead, I need to firm the muscles in that area and align my pelvis so that I'm not hanging in the joint. See the difference? Hanging in the joint, not hanging in the joint. No work, just a lot of possible injury, a lot of work happening here. Okay, hanging in the joint can be done in other places than tree pose, right? It can be done in Warrior 3, it can be done in any pose. It can even be done in our cat and cow, right? In our shoulders. Okay? Let me see if I can get in alignment here with the camera. Okay, sometimes, excuse me, sometimes I see people like this instead of here. So they're not using those shoulder girdle muscles to hold them. They're just hanging in the shoulder joints. So you want to push away from the ground, feel your chest muscles working and your back muscles working. Okay? For women, it's the area by your bra strap, so your anterior, posterior muscles. So chest, back, everything working. For men too, but women identify with the bra strap area a little better. All right. Chaturanga, that's what we were going to work on. Walk your knees back. Okay? Curl the toes. Skip the knees forward. Okay? See how I did that? I'm not sure if everything's in view in the camera, so here I was, my feet flat. I'm going to turn the toes under. I'm going to put weight into my hands, lift the knees, push the toes, and come forward. Yeah? That is that alignment for the shoulder health in Chaturanga. When we don't move that way in our Chaturanga, we have a tendency to roll ourselves forward, right? Let me see if I can get this in frame. Here, if I just do Chaturanga here, I'm going to roll my shoulder heads forward. And that really hurts my elbow joint. Okay? So we push forward, find the Chaturanga, keeping the shoulders quiet. This is not shoulder strength. This is shoulder girdle strength. This is serratus posterior and anterior working. This is your chest muscles working and lats and all of that. All of it working in combinations or all in consecutively together. So instead of just chest muscles working and shoulder rotator cuffs muscles working, we're using the whole upper body. I did want to go over wrist pain. I'm going to get a little bit closer. Just so, hi Karina. Okay. So wrist pain. So if you have wrist pain here when your hands are to the floor, that is tensile. If you have wrist pain here, that's compression. So you're hitting bone on bone. If it's in here, remember when I was talking about the Hasta Bandhas, the thumb pulling towards the index finger, we want this muscle contracted. And then we start to push into the very tips of our fingers, and you can almost see a cup in the palm of the hand. What we're doing is we are pulling the carpal bones away from the carpal nerve. Okay? The forearms are nice and tight. Now, if all of that, you're like, still have pain, look and see, first, is your middle finger pointing straight forward, or is it kind of out at an angle? So you want your carpal tunnel, the little tunnel there, to be pointing straight forward, okay? So for some of us, our hands are gonna be straight forward. For some of us, to get that, they're out a little bit. I have a doctor that comes in, and to get his carpal tunnel to go straight forward, his hands are out here. We're all made differently that way, and it's totally fine. The other thing is the extension of the wrist. So it could be just tensile. So you could be overextending your wrist. You could put something underneath the hand to change the elevation. So let me see if I can show this on video. I'm going to use a blanket. All right. So I take the blanket and I put the blanket right underneath this part of my hand, right up to this first knuckle, just like that. So I'm changing the angle of compression in my wrist. Okay, just like that. So wrist pain is a very common thing that people try to figure out in yoga. It is best when you're with a teacher who can help you figure out what is causing it. But I know right now that's just not possible. If you would like to private message us and ask me any questions about today's lesson, please feel free to. We welcome any questions or feedback. All right, so that's it for today. Tomorrow we will be reviewing everything that we went through the last 3 days, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We might be doing a Warrior 3 and a couple other little more challenging poses. Or maybe we'll just do a practice together doing the poses that I taught the last 3 days, putting them all together into a class so that you can actually do a practice with me. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste. Thank you so much. God bless.